Okay guys, Mike here from Panther Hollow Sporting Optics with another question and answer. These are questions I get via email or questions I get on my videos, and I hope these answers find you well. I'm not really going to repeat the handles unless it's just somebody's name. Some of the handles are pretty colorful. I'll just leave it at that. So the first question is, what are the plastic pieces on the Matrix chassis? So if you go to MPA's website, they'll give you more of a detailed definition of these, but this is basically a thumb rest, or a gas pedal they call it. Now if you look at this right here, this is meant to keep your trigger finger at a 90 to the trigger. This helps to keep from torquing the rifle, and we'll go over that a little bit more. So if you're to grab your rifle like this is not really a thumb hold. If you just grab your rifle like this, you could torque it. So what you need to do, or what I like to do, is keep my thumb on the outside of the frame or on the outside of the handle, and that's what this thumb rest is for. And then your finger rests here and keeps it at a 90 from the trigger. This helps with several things. It helps keep from torquing the rifle, for one. It's going to help your group size. It's also just going to help just overall hand posture, period, on the frame of your rifle. So I think that answers that question pretty good. The next question we had, what was hand position? So another guy asked me about hand position. So kind of covered that right there. Keep your hand on the outside of the frame as you're shooting long range, trying to shoot groups, period. Keeping your cheek well the same. And I like to shoot with both eyes open. Some people can do that, some people can't. It really depends on what's going on with your ocular. So I like to shoot with both eyes open. I am looking through the lens with my right eye, and my left eye is kind of my field of view. So I never put my scope caps turned out to the left side or turned out to the right side. So I don't ever do this, which is, it just depends on what you like, but me, I don't do that. And I don't turn it that side either. I keep my scope lenses straight up. My level is in the frame of the Matrix chassis. That's just my setup. That's what I like to do. That's my practice. So that covers hand position. So I got another question about the style of trigger. Some people want to know why a two-stage trigger versus a single-stage trigger. So the reason I use a two-stage trigger, you can see the creep there, hopefully, my finger moving. The reason I like the two-stage is I like to have a little bit of interface with the weapon. I just don't want to touch it and go off. I want to be able to have a little interface, and then for that first stage and then second stage, pull the trigger. Now, I do shoot some single stage triggers, and the reason for that is because they are not offered in a dual stage in that type, in a certain type of action, and Howa being that action. There's only single stage triggers. Timony aftermarket triggers for the Howa. That's why I like a dual stage trigger. Now I can shoot both, but I like that interface with the weapon, so that I feel like it makes me a better shooter instead of just sitting there waiting for your heartbeat swing, and then bam, jerk the trigger. Now some people have a tendency to jerk that trigger, which throws a shot off. I think with a two-stage trigger, with your already engaged, I think you're less likely to do that because you have pressure engaged on the trigger already. It's all strictly preference, and how you train and how you shoot. I've spent a lot of time behind a two-stage trigger, and that's just my personal preference. Now we have guys on our team that prefer 2 stages, and we have a couple guys that like single stage. That's just all a matter of preference. It's all a matter of what do you like better. That's just what I do. So that is the third question. So we'll move on. Actually, that's the third question. And then we'll move on. The differences between the matrix chassis and the BA chassis. Well, the differences in the chassis is pretty obvious. I mean, and I don't mean that bad or anything. It's just that this chassis is made different than the BA chassis. The matrix chassis you can't weight it as much as the BA chassis, which is good and bad. It depends on what you're doing with the chassis. The overall look of the chassis, this is meant for more of the hunting style feel, I think, than the BA chassis, the comp chassis. As far as which one I like better, I've got more time behind the BA chassis. I like this setup they've come up with keeping your trigger finger out here. We will swap out chassis here and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Back with the BA chassis. The BA chassis does have the thumb rest here built into the chassis. It has somewhat of a push out from the frame to get that trigger, your trigger finger at a 90 with the trigger. I have a lot of time behind these style of chassis. So if I was to pick one and I was going to go to a match, I'm probably going to pick one that I'm more comfortable with. The matrix chassis works well for me. I just don't have as many hours behind it as I do the BA chassis. So kind of fields that question there. I think the BA chassis, I think, is more prevalent in what you'll see in the competitive field out there, or chassis similar to, like some of the MDT chassis are very similar to the BA. Okay guys, I also had a question here about, I guess there was a video that someone seen me holding the bolt and running the bolt and using my middle finger as a trigger finger. Now, when you do this, you grip the bolt with your thumb and your first finger, you run the bolt like this, and you use your middle finger to engage the trigger. Now obviously this wouldn't be for accuracy. It would be somewhat for accuracy and more so for speed. Now you can shoot groups like this if you do it slowly, but if you've got your target pretty much lined in there at say 300 yards for example, and you just want to put it, you're shooting for points, I will do something like this. As much as I can stay on the trigger, keep my crosshair inside the X as possible. And the more you do it, the better you'll get. That's just a short, simple example. This action is not quite as smooth as some of my other actions. But if I was to go shoot with someone and I was wanting to do a little betting, I would probably more or less use this setup. Not that my matrix chassis wouldn't do it. I've just got more time behind this guy right here. So that kind of fields that question. Another question was, are we ever going to see a Howa build? And in the same email, the person asked if what action I like better, the Howa or the Remington. Well, my very first long-range gun was a Howa HCR. That's what I originally purchased. Been about 6 years ago. It's featured in some of my older videos. That was a great gun. It just didn't have the accuracy I was looking for. So then I got into building. When I built my very first Remage gun, it was off of a Remington Action, and it was in a 6 Creedmoor. I really enjoyed that gun. I shot that barrel out actually. So since then, I've basically been building Remington style builds, Remage style builds to be exact. And some of my actions are blueprinted and some of them aren't. But we do have a Howa action. I already have the Timney trigger installed. I already have the oversized bolt knob installed. This action feels very good. I will be doing a build series on this action. We're just going to take the barrel off of it and do away with it. If some of you guys are interested in a stock Howa barrel, send me an email. My email address is pantherhollow@mail.com. I just set up a new email today. So that's pantherhollow@mail.com. I'm going to be getting rid of some of these things that I don't use, like that barrel. That's a 6.5 Creedmoor barrel. I'm going to have 2 of them. And I'm just going to give them away. If you guys are interested in anything like that, drop me a line or send me an email, pantherhollow@mail.com. That's pantherhollow@mail.com. So these barrels are something that I will never use. I will be putting a Howage style barrel on this. It'll be a Panther Hollow barrel, and we're going to do one in 6GT. Now, why we're doing that is because I would like to do a direct comparison of accuracy between this and the Remington, and just see if the Howa can hang with the Remington accuracy wise. And if it does, well, guess what? We've got a budget style action that you can put a really nice barrel on. Now, some of the machining stuff on the Howa is really, really nice. I actually think it rivals the Remington in some aspects of the machining. Now, as far as the bolt smoothness and stuff goes, we'll just take this down here. Okay, now we got the Howa in there. So as far as the smoothness of the bolt goes, it's really smooth. This is just a standard Howa 1500 short action. It feels really good. I've got the trigger out down there to about 8 ounces. I'm excited to get this one going. I do have a BA chassis ordered for this, so it's a chassis just like the gray gun you just seen there. Same style of chassis, except it's just going to be a Howa style action. We're going to put a 40 MOA rail on it. We've already got the Timney trigger in it, which is simply just one. You unscrew one screw and the trigger comes out. Put the other one in. It's super simple. I'll be pulling this barrel off, like I said earlier, and putting a Panther Hollow barrel on there. And we'll see how she shoots. I'll do a whole build series on this. We might even, if everything turns out good and it does what it's supposed to do, what I think it'll do, we might even feature it in some matches. So this is going to be kind of a budget action style build for you guys out there that don't want to spend all that money on actions. I get that. That's why I build a lot of Remingtons. Anyways, this is Mike from Panther Hollow Sporting Optics. I hope you enjoyed this question and answer video. I look forward to showing you more about the Howa action and the build we're going to put together. Here at Panther Hollow, we are long range. We put out the videos to show that, and I hope all you guys enjoy the videos, and I look forward to more questions and more emails. My new email address is pantherhollow@mail.com. If you could send your questions there, that would be great, or leave it in a video down at the bottom as a comment. I will get to those too, and we'll do a Q&A video on that as well. I'm sorry I didn't repeat the names of some of the questions that were featured here. Some of the handles are pretty colorful, so I would just assume that if you guys watch the video and you hear your question, you'll know that I answered it. I appreciate you guys. You guys stay safe and stay warm, and have a great week. Thanks.